7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Ms. Trox, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This record show all board members are present. Mr. Board, has public notice been given?
Yes, it has.
To public comment, per policy 0167.3, anyone wishing to participate in the period of public comment must be a resident of the Richland School District, the parent or legal guardian of an enrolled district student or an enrolled district student. Speakers are not permitted to make inflammatory comments, use inappropriate language or gestures, attack specific persons, or make a specific person the subject of their remarks. Please see policy 0167.3 for a complete list of requirements and restrictions. If a person is unable to adhere to these rules, they may be directed to end their comments. Mrs. Coleman?
There's none.
Thank you. On to reports. District Administrator's report.
Okay, let the board know that we've got our committee meetings coming up a week from this Wednesday, be February 19th. Slight change in starting times. Personnel will start at 5:30 on that Wednesday. Buildings and property will start at 6 o'clock. And then policy and curriculum will start after that. We're tentatively shooting for a 7 o'clock start time for those two. However, that starting time for those later meetings will be set once the agenda is finalized here later this week. Secondly, in the board docs memo, there is a YouTube link to the community forum that was held at the Phoenix Center on January 29th. I mentioned that at the last board meeting. School, county, city, and some other entities have been getting together and giving the public stakeholders an opportunity to hear from the different entities and then ask some questions. School had a seat at the table, and so I encourage you to, and the public, to watch that and get a feel for what happened there on the 29th. Third, our open enrollment window is officially open. This is the traditional window. It will run from now until early April. After that, there is the alternate open enrollment process. So this is the time where families can look to enroll into the Richland School District. If they have any questions, just contact the district office and we'll guide them through that. And then finally, we are hosting some regional sporting events, big wrestling tournaments, Friday night girls wrestling, Saturday boys wrestling here at the Richland Center Fieldhouse, weather permitting. Of course, if there's inclement weather, we're at the hands of the WIA on when they decide to do or rescheduling. But that is going on this week. Any questions from the board? Thank you.
State convention reports.
So at the last meeting, those who were here were able to give a brief update on some of the things that they saw at the state convention in Milwaukee. We added it back on as an agenda item for this meeting because Mrs. Dickman in particular was not present, so I'll give her an opportunity to update the board and public on what she took away.
Thank you. So I attended the education convention in January. I was an incredible opportunity for learning, so I appreciate the opportunity to go and represent our school district there as the delegate. That is the main purpose for me going. In the delegation assembly, we did vote on 12 resolutions, and those resolutions, just in case, it was a learning experience for me, so I'll share that with you. They are resolutions that we vote on that the Wisconsin Association of School Boards will take to and lobby the state legislature for. So you're not actually voting on legislation, you're just voting on how you would like the lobbyists for the School Board Association to lobby for you or vote if they come up. So there were 12 this time, which I hear is a light load. It's my first time, so I don't know from experience. One that I remember, I actually looked for my list to bring and share more with you, but I got home late from work and didn't have time to find it. So, but one I do remember that we voted on was teachers being able to get an emergency license through their school district without a bachelor's degree. So that was one thing that came before. Other sessions that I went to that were just strictly for learning and growing were a session on standards-based learning, school board mental health, or school-based mental health services, promoting and monitoring student success, systems for students experiencing homelessness, and community engagement. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to let me go and learn and grow as an educator and school board member. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, board member reports. I don't believe we have any. So we'll move on to student council report.
Okay, I believe we've got a couple of students from the RCHS Student Council here. Maybe push that button on the microphone there until the light turns green. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kylie Burns, and I'm a sophomore at the Richland Center High School. And it's been an honor to serve on student council for the past 2 years. Tonight, I'd like to introduce David Doon, and he's a junior and a new council. He's excited to get involved and eager to make a positive impact on both our council and our school. Third quarter, our primary focus is on planning and fundraising. This Friday during Hornet Hour, we will be doing free hot chocolate as a gesture of appreciation for our students and staff. While it may seem like a small thing, we hope it brings some warmth and joy to everyone's day, especially as we push through the winter months. We believe this is just one way to build a stronger connection between the student body and the student council. One of our biggest ongoing projects for this council is our period project. This project has been extremely popular and well received by the student body, and it provides an great service for those who need it. However, it's really costly, with expenses totaling around $2,500 each year. While we absolutely do not want to reduce or eliminate this service because of its positive impact, we are currently exploring sponsorships, opportunities, and other fundraisers to help cover these costs. Our goal is to find a way to help keep this project running smoothly without compromising the support it offers to our students. In addition to our period project, we are working on a more ambitious and exciting project, bringing an electronic scoreboard or jumbotron to our school. We've already began discussing with our athletic director to better understand the logistics, planning, and costs involved. With this guidance, we're mapping out the necessary steps. Although it will require a significant investment and careful planning, we believe it's something that could enhance the school spirit and make our event even more exciting for the students, staff, and community. We are committed to exploring all the possible options to make this happen and ensure its success.
All right. To keep our council meetings engaging and fun, we've also introduced a new social committee. The goal of this committee is to help improve this atmosphere of our meetings and to make sure members stay motivated and satisfied. We hope this will not only keep our current members happy, but also attract new students who want to join and participate in the activities we're organizing. The social committee will be a key part of making our student council work environment more inclusive and enjoyable. At the end of this month, we will be taking over the Scrooge's Chocolate fundraiser that FBLA ran last year. This is an exciting opportunity for the entire student council to come together and take charge of an event that has always been a favorite among students. The fundraiser will last for a two-week period, and each member of the council will be involved in selling the chocolates. While this will be a new experience for us, we've never ran this fundraiser before, and we are excited to see results and have a great outcome. We're confident that with everyone's efforts, it will be a big success and help raise funds for future student council incentives. Looking ahead to quarter 4, we plan to continue working on the projects we've already started and make significant progress on our goals. A major focus will be the re-election process for next year's student council members. We will begin the re-election phase as we prepare for the next school year, ensuring that students have the opportunity to vote for the next group of student leaders. This will be an important process, and we are involved and looking forward to getting the next generation of student council members involved in making decisions for our school. Additionally, before the school year ends, we are planning to select a theme for next year's homecoming and start making preparations for the homecoming parade. This will require a lot of coordination and planning, but we are eager to start working on it early so we can make next year's homecoming the best it can be. We plan to involve students in the process of choosing the theme and getting everyone excited for the event. Overall, quarter 3 has been a time of planning, teamwork, and looking ahead to what we can accomplish in the future. We are excited to see how the rest of the year unfolds, and we are committed to working hard to achieve our goals we have set for ourselves. Any questions about today's report?
Could you touch on what the period project involves?
So essentially, it's just a committee in our council that every week they fill up the bathrooms with baskets of just like tampons or pads or like just things like that. And we just fill it up weekly or like as it goes empty. But recently it's been like going really fast. And so that's why we're looking on more options on how to either not make it go as fast or to get more money so we can supply it better. Because we don't want to get rid of it because we've heard like great feedback in our school and how a lot of people appreciate it and really like it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
What's your election process for the members?
So basically there's different positions and I'm not sure like what all of them are because last year it was only open to seniors and juniors and I'm a sophomore. But there's like, I think there's 5 different positions and you just write a speech on why you want to be that position and why you think it should be it. And then everybody like votes on who they think it should be. But this year it's open to all grades, so like anybody can try out for anything.
Mr. Dowden, did your question revolve around the officers or to be a student council member since we have a new one here?
To be the student council member.
Oh, my bad.
Okay, so for me, like what I did is you have to get 2 referrals for 2 teachers. So I went to 2 teachers that wrote me on an essay on why I would be a good fit for the student council committee. And then GPA isn't a factor in that.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can fit it. Is it 3.25?
You don't need to have a certain GPA, but they ask for it and they.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't really matter what it is, but I guess it has to be acceptable. And that's pretty much it. And you have to say why you want to be in there because they want to make sure you're not just doing it for a resume, looks good on a college resume, that you actually do want to, improve your school, which we are all motivated to do. So.
And that's open to all classes, 9 to 12?
Yes, ma'am. And yeah, that's about it. But really the main thing we added was the new committee, and I'm part of that. It's a social committee. And because we have not a problem, but we have a lot of great ideas, but I think the biggest thing that I realize is that a lot of people don't have the confidence to share their ideas, and maybe they feel nervous with public speaking or, so like what we did in the last meeting is we got like a little JBL speaker and walked in there and played some music to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, and we played like a 5-minute icebreaker to kind of get people thinking about stuff and try to get people's confidence up a little bit. But we're also working on planning more fundraisers to try to help fund things as well. Those are all in the works right now. So.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Foreign exchange program.
This is a carryover from last board meeting because we had some technical issues on getting it uploaded until right before the meeting. Hopefully the board members had an opportunity to look at that video presentation that Kathy Fry, our Foreign Exchange Program Director, had put together. We have 6 full-time foreign exchange students currently right now. We have 10 Argentina students who are here for 5 weeks. They are actually leaving on Wednesday, February 12th. Both those programs have gone over really, really well, but if you have specific questions, you can let me know. I can take them down, or you can email me, and then I'll get them from Mrs. Fry and get them back to you or report to the board as a whole. My understanding is the only disappointment from the Argentina students is that we don't have snow, so. Any questions that come to mind right off the top of your head, or you can email me. I don't see Kathy online, so. Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes of January 27th, 2025?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Van Landijk. Discussion? Mr. Bailey?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. On to financial items, approval of statement of cash and invoices.
I move we approve the statement of cash dated February 3rd, 2025, and Community First Bank General Checking Accounts checks number 86981 through 86989, ACH number 242502667, and EFT number 202400078 through 202400092 for a net total of $693,253.12. This is for the purpose of general operating costs of the district.
Motion was made by Mr. Dowdna. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Huntermer. Mr. Bosworth, anything you want to call out or add?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Discussion? Mr. Van Landijk?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Mrs. Coleman, consent to agenda items?
Motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Motion to accept the donation of money for school materials valued at $25 from Susan Tadar. Motion to approve 2 open enrollment out applications for the 2024-25 school year as presented. That's it.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Troxel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Nicklin. Discussion? Mr. Dowdna?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to thank Susan Tadar for her generous donation. I'll make the motion, we approve the modified agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dowdna. Discussion? Mr. Huntermer?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
All right, information and discussion items, district vacancies and appointments.
Okay, so you'll see that we do have one current year, school year, 24-25 position, a special education aide at the intermediate school. That posting is closed. They're reviewing applicants and setting up interviews for that position this week. And then we have 2 positions, a speech and language pathologist as well as a 5-year-old kindergarten teacher for the next school year, 25-26. And as those openings open up, we'll continue to add those to the 25-26 school year. Any questions from the board? Thank you.
January pupil membership count.
Okay, so the board's aware that we have 2 official pupil counts. Every school district in Wisconsin has 2 official counts. One is what we call the 3rd Friday in September count. That has already happened. At that time, we had 1,133 students that we were educating in our school system. Those are residents and open enrolled in, etc. 1,133. We just had our second official pupil count. That's the 2nd Friday in January count. And we were at 1,150 students. So we're up 17 students from our September count. A couple of things to point out. We saw through the course of the school year, from the 3rd Friday in September count to the 2nd Friday in January, we saw a 7.5% increase in grade 10. So that's a lot for a single grade. But then we also saw a 5.5% increase in grades 11 and 12 combined. So between grades 10, 11, and 12, we saw a significant number of students return to our building or join our building, which was a positive thing. The board has set a goal of retaining 80% of its resident students, up from 75 that we had when that goal was established. Current numbers in January puts us at 81.9. However, I do want to point out that that doesn't include the Argentina students in our January count. And so as those students leave us in February, those will be removed from the count, which means we'll be a little bit closer to that 80%. And a lot of things can still happen in the spring. Open enrollment period is happening. We're hoping to gain more students, not only through the open enrollment period, but through the summer. So our official goal will be established when we hit that 3rd Friday in September count in 2025. But overall, things are trending in the right direction. We're clearly up. Over the past 10 months, we are up 69 students in the Richland School District. So that's a good positive trend. Any questions or things to know that the board has that I can try to answer? All right, thank you.
Q2 discipline report.
Okay, give me just a second. My computer's slow to flip agenda topics. All right, so this is the 2nd quarter discipline. Couple of things right off before you get to the attachment, right in the main memo, you'll see a total offenses chart. 24-25, the current year is in gold, so you'll see that we have total offenses across the district for quarters 1 and 2. Quarter 2, the gold is very comparable to what we saw last year, which is in the green. even though quarter one was higher. However, I would also point out that historically speaking, our higher offense counts are coming. Quarters 3 and 4, if you just look at the bar charts there, you'll see that they are generally a little higher than they are in the first couple of quarters. So just kind of be aware of that. When you look at the attachments, if you look at the charts, quarter 2 is shown in blue, quarter 1 is shown in orange, and you'll see that over the course of a couple of years. So when I look at it, of course everybody can interpret the data as they choose, but I'm looking really for two specific trends. I'm looking for number one, where both lines are generally moving in the same direction, right? That would indicate year-over-year data where we're increasing or decreasing. And then the second thing that I'm looking for is areas where there's a large gap between the orange and the blue, where quarter 1 is significantly higher than quarter 2, the orange being significantly higher than the blue line, or vice versa, where we can look at and say what's happening or what's occurring between quarter 1 and 2. So with those two things in mind, just a couple of things that I saw. One, our bullying. We did add a general bullying category at the start of the 24-25. So when you look at that specific chart, you'll see that there's an uptick in the general bullying. We had tried to classify all bullying in harassment, religion, sex-based, etc. But we do find that there are occasionally, especially at the younger levels, some just general bullying that happen that don't really necessarily fit one of the other categories. So that was established. That's why it went from 0 up just a little bit. We did have a slight increase in, slight increase in the harassment bullying in quarter 1, but you'll see that we're down significantly in quarter 2. Same would be true for sexual harassment. When you look at possession of drugs, you'll see that that's dropped down significantly from previous years. And then probably the biggest trend that I've seen that continues to be an increase is, and there's kind of 3 categories here that I think all kind of deal with the same kind of thing. Verbal confrontations, defiance of authority, and profanity language. And I think we're continuing to see a slight increase in all 3 of those categories as well, year-over-year data. Then you look at, you've got the raw data there in the other PDF that shows every discipline offense and every grade and the number of offenses that we have. And then there in the memo, finally, you'll see the number of occurrences. Total is 401 for this quarter. And then the number of students that create those occurrences, and we're at 163. So 163 students of our 1,150 are responsible for the 401 occurrences. With that, our administration is present here tonight. If the board has any questions for them, you certainly have seen this disciplinary data, what it is before. This is obviously new for quarter 2, but they're here to try to answer any specific questions that you might have, or I can help as well. Questions from the board?
One of the things that we've been striving for is consistency. Have you seen improvement as far as between different classrooms, different teachers, and it's for all 3 buildings, that the documentation of that has been more consistent, and just how the same behaviors where one teacher might be more tolerant or not want to do paperwork or whatever the case might be, that is that improving to actually get more into real data? Because I know we've had some issues with why is it so much higher this year than it was last year? Because more are being reported.
Yeah, I think we're always striving for consistency, like you mentioned. Obviously, when we have new staff members, we have to teach new staff members, and they have to learn what their expectations are in their classroom and what their below the line and above the line behaviors are, and what constitutes an office referral. So I think that's always going on, but we have a pretty consistent staff in this building at this point. So that has led to consistency with what is a referral and sending them when they should be sent to the office and writing that referral. So I think the answer is yes, but there's obviously always room for improvement with that.
We had done an exercise with our staff during one of our building meetings earlier in the year, especially when we were onboarding new staff, where we broke them up into, mixed up groups and gave them some scenarios to help guide their conversation of would you send a student to the office, would you do referrals? I think that was really helpful to do right at the start of the year, especially for our new staff. And then we've communicated between buildings, if there's a situation at a certain building, another principal will call and say, this is my situation. What do you think? And we've gotten together in the summertime too to just go through all the typical scenarios we might see and, what we assign for consequences or what we do with each student.
Mrs. Brown, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say we actually just did some work in our building as well, just working with the teachers on, we might have a little bit of a different threshold for what's acceptable and what's not, so we just did some more work in our building of, classroom managed versus office managed, and when you write the referral and all of that, so just kind of revisited all of our processes and trying to get more secure in those protocols and procedures. So we've come a long way, and definitely having the support and reaching out and just trying to stay consistent as much as we can. But it's a continued conversation, so, which has been good though.
I would mirror what they've spoken on as far as, it's something that we continue to strive for, and you continually want to have that consistency amongst your grade levels or within the building as much as possible. But as it's been mentioned, different thresholds, so it's just trying to have those conversations to find out where are our people and how are we functioning, so we do the best we can for that consistency. And then in the office, as far as how it's managed, if there is an ODR and it comes to the office, or it warrants my interaction or a school counselor's interaction, that varies a little bit depending on what has happened. And at the primary, I think of all the spots, that's where we're really taking on the reteach, help them understand and learn that this is not okay behavior and this is below the line or this is bottom line and why, explaining that to them. But if you come in and you ask our kindergartners and even a lot of our 4Kers, is that below the line or above the line, they'll be able to tell you exactly. They understand that language very well and they'll own it for the most part. And so that has helped having that same language throughout.
I think having the board have that as a goal, I think it's forced us to collaborate, talk about those things more than we ever have. And I think Mr. Lemke said it best. Well, it's certainly better. There's always room for improvement.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
Class sizes and under-enrolled courses for our CHS 2024-25 second semester.
Okay, so if you remember back in the fall, our policy says that the board should annually review the data as it pertains to class sizes and under-enrolled classes. At the high school, under-enrolled meaning 10 or less than 10. I'm not exactly sure if 10's included or not off the top of my head. When we brought that in the fall, we did not include the third and fourth quarter because a lot of students were still getting scheduling changes, things like that. So we took this as an opportunity to, bring that back to the board. So you'll see at the bottom of that memo, the under-enrolled classes for quarter 3, which is going on right now, as well as where it currently sits for quarter 4. Of course, again, a lot of changes could still happen there, specifically with quarter 4. But then Dr. Johnson also put together the class size to student, or excuse me, staff ratio for the early childhood grade 6, and you can compare that to the first half of the year compared to the second half of the year. You'll see, generally speaking, pretty consistent numbers. We have increased our students a little bit, therefore class sizes are up a little bit. That's a good thing when it relates to students, but you do reach a tipping point where you're really getting more students in there than we want. But I think all that information is there. Again, this is not the first time the board has seen this, but open it up to any questions that the board may have.
One question that I have is, especially with quarter 4, because that's coming up, can't really affect quarter 3. When we're looking at these, how many of these classes are required for graduation? I know like personal finance is one class that is. I'm not sure about the other ones. obviously there's 5 kids in that class, or scheduled to be in that quarter 4. Are we making sure that kids are getting put into those courses and not?
First, yep. And a lot of times, quarter 4 could still change. I mean, students, usually those first few days of each quarter, they decide if they want to try a different elective, or maybe they turn into a YA student and need classes in the morning because in the afternoon they go to work. So quarter 4 is definitely still fluid, but personal finance, I look at the algebra classes, like you need those math courses and that content. So our counselors go through those and make sure they have those first.
So is there a point where, hey, we only have 4 kids in this class, we're just going to cut that and then try to find new homes for those 4 kids?
We've done that for, I believe it was speech, this past quarter, which allowed our English teacher also helps with the GED to help with that because there was more numbers in there. So we were able to do that. But sometimes it's just driven by our band and choir block is heavy, so the kids can only go to the class when that, they do that every day, all year long, so then that drives how their schedule works for the rest of the year and what they need in.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
All right. Action items, 2025-26 staffing plans.
Okay, so this is the second time the board has seen this. I brought it to the last board meeting under information, just as a precursor. Now I would like the board to take official action on setting our staffing plans. It was presented, nothing's changed since the last meeting in January. We are wanting to be staff neutral for all employee groups from an FTE standpoint. That doesn't mean that there isn't some efficiencies if we can have them in certain areas. If there's a retirement or a vacancy that creates and there's an opportunity to have more efficiencies, we will certainly look at that. But from an FTE, full-time equivalency standpoint, wanting to be staff neutral. The 2 variables or the 2 exclusions from that, which of course we would bring back to the board if there's changes, would be special education, because that is more driven by IEPs, as well as any potential changes that we are looking for alternative education options, which I believe we're going to be talking about at our next committee meetings and may have some information to bring back to the board. But excluding those 2 things, generally speaking, all of our employee groups to be staff neutral from an FTE standpoint. So that's the recommendation and what we're asking the board to move on tonight. Any questions?
All right. Is there a motion to approve the 2025-26 staffing plans as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Van Landine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Dickman. Discussion? Ms. Troxel?
Aye.
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 Aye. The 2025 Youth Risk Behavior Survey.
Okay, so the YRBS, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, this is something that we do every other year, started in 2017, and we've done it ever since. This is something that the board has always weighed in on and gotten approval before it's administered. The district is planning on administering this survey, if the board so approves, during the week of March 24th. That's the week right prior to spring break. This would be done in grades 6 through 12. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, administration is there are 2 separate surveys. There's a middle school survey, which would be for the 6th through 8th graders, and then a high school survey, which would be for the 9th through 12th. And then this survey helps our local community monitor the trends in our youth health and risk behavior. Specifically, it's used a lot from our Drug-Free Communities grant coordinator. This is voluntary. Okay, parents can opt out of the survey if they so choose, and students can opt out of any specific question and simply choose not to answer it as they're taking the survey if they simply just don't feel comfortable answering that question. So it's completely voluntary. Nothing is required. There's no name or identifiable information taken, and it really just helps the school district and our community understand what factors are affecting our youth and what we can do to help them in the future. So that would be the ask. Any questions?
I just wondered, what has been in the past the participation amount?
That's a great question. Admin, can you help me with that? It was last done in 2023, so I know not
Not
everybody.
great, because I think we needed a certain amount to do it, and we didn't have that, and so Betsy had to reach out to ask for the data.
If we don't get a certain percentage, we don't get the data back. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we're structuring things a little differently this year during the week to try to get, the week of the 24th, to try to get higher participation? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think, not 100%, the percentage that we need is 40%. To get 40% participation, but I could be wrong on that number.
It's 40 to 50.
And I just feel like in the past, it's been because maybe they can be somehow identified, and when they're filling this out, is that, do you think that's their caution of not taking it, or have you got any thoughts on
It
that?
definitely could be. I also know up in this building, our students struggle to answer surveys. Like we did one today, just a survey on how their second quarter classes went and any feedback. We had participation, but I would like to see more. So I think there's a little bit of just getting our students to answer the surveys and taking the time. And whenever we send out the survey, we let them know that it's confidential, and I think just reminding them that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
We bribed our staff with apparel and got 96%, so maybe.
Pizza? I don't know.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, if you need 40 to 50%, what percentage did you get last year where you were not able to do this?
Did it 2 years ago, and I feel like we had 40%, and I thought we needed 50. We were close, but Betsy was able to get the data by going through some hoops, but
Did you ask student council to aid in this?
possibly.
'Cause I think that might be a way to get kids to, encourage kids to do it.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure I would voluntarily take a 99-question survey. It's a long survey, and I know when surveys come to my email about different services or businesses, and they're looking for my input. I like how it tells me like a little bar, it'll take 5 minutes or less, it'll take 3 minutes or less, and I mean, it's a long survey.
It is. We tried to opt out of some questions, and we thought that we were successful in it when we did everything online, but Betsy was contacted and we couldn't opt. They were mandatory questions, so we tried to opt out of some.
Well, how about doing it all in one sitting? Is that mandatory? Or could you break it up into like 25 question surveys so that maybe they would take it quicker? That, I'm just pitching out, spitballing here. I'm not.
Yeah, I would just have to see how it's set up, because I would hate for them to get halfway through and then if they don't hit save or.
Correct.
then
Yeah.
they have to start over.
Yeah. Just a thought. I just know that's asking a lot of people, actually.
I'm like in free apparel.
And I did read through these questions. They're not super upbeat questions. They're not like, how many times did you go to Disney? So, or who's your favorite, cartoon Pokemon? I don't know. It's just, they're sort of downers.
I understand a lot of the positive benefit that could be gleaned from this. I, however, while normally I'm not, I'm a fan of tough love, I would like to see the 6th grade not have to be subjected to this. Some of the language isn't necessarily things like, have you considered cutting or burning yourself? Have you had sexual intercourse? I don't really feel comfortable saying that in front of you folks. I would rather 6th graders not be subjected to that. Like, what other drugs besides marijuana have you used? Now they gotta go home and figure out what other drugs exist besides that. So if others are inclined, I would make the recommendation to pass it with that stipulation that 6th grade be removed.
Brown, do you have any feedback from the sixth grade 2 years ago on whether that was helpful data or not?
I think when we had our sixth graders take it 2 years ago, we only probably had 2 or 3 students that did not take the survey. I think unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of our students are exposed to a lot more than probably what we all realize sitting around this table. And so I completely understand, parents, if they choose to opt out, or students, that is, their right and everything to do so, and they are able. It does provide valuable data that, and I think in our building, I know it is a sixth grade level, and so we do get lumped into that, are we in elementary, or are you a middle school type of thing. And so we are working on that transition and going from there. So it is difficult. I would say I could support it either way. It just depends on how we want to use the data, but I also can respect parent choice and student choice as well.
And I just wonder how beneficial the survey is when it says, have you considered killing yourself in the last 30 days? When there is no name attached to that. So you very well could have somebody on the verge and they're just randomly roaming and there's no course to try to help.
Intervene.
And do you want to know that this exists and it could be any one of these children? Or would you like to hopefully be able to intervene? And so I feel like you could get a lot of negatives from this as well.
With that, I know we have we use the SAVERS program, so looking at our social emotional well-being that our students also take 3 times a year. That is run with our guidance department. Probably not as heavy or in-depth of questions, but we still get at that mental health piece as well, using that data too in our building.
And Neil, just to kind of chime in on that from what I learned at the education convention, one of the sessions that I went to was on school-based mental health assessment, and some schools are doing just screening across the line at certain grades. So this would be a helpful survey if you see that you have a lot of students answering that in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, and you're doing screening, which I don't think we are yet, but if that was something we ever looked at, then you would, or if we were ever going to decide to do that, it would be like, oh, we're having a lot of kids answer this. Maybe school-based screening is something we want to think about. So I do think the data is really helpful. I think bombarding 6th graders, I know theirs is only 49, and up to 12th graders with 99 questions. I'm just not sure how accurate it is, because by the time you get to the end of a 99 or even 49 for a 6th grader, I feel like you're just hitting C, just feel like you burn out pretty quick. But I think if we can get accurate information, there's lots of important ways we can use that information.
How is this presented to the parents first, or?
Yep,
So
we
it
set
has
it
to be
out
signed off
ahead
on
of
by the
time,
parent?
so they have time to contact us and say, I want my child to take this. We would just ensure that they would take it likely in their homeroom morning hour, so we would let that teacher know they aren't taking it today.
We send it out, and they said if you want to opt out your student, let us know, and we'll provide a space for the student. We've had students in the past where they're in the middle of it and just get up, come down to the office, which is totally fine as well. So either works. It can be pre-planned or just be kind of, I'm not comfortable with this, I want to remove myself from my screen, and they come down to the office.
I think society's kind of moving towards some of these kinds of questions. I went to the hospital 2 weeks ago for a checkup, and the nurse sat there and asked me some of these same questions. Do you feel safe at home? Do you feel threatened? Are you, threatened by anything? Or have you thought about committing suicide? These kinds of things are being asked now at the hospital for checkup. Now, what they do with the information, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that we have a use for that. But I think what Neil said, we don't know who the students are that may give some answers that we'd like to zero in on and help them, the child, but we can't. So, what do you do? I can see where you want to keep it anonymous, but there's a problem when you really come into a problem area and you can't figure out, okay, now who needs help?
This particular survey is probably not geared towards getting the individuals. It's more geared towards, where are the areas that there are a problem for our local community so that we can then take the steps to develop different strategies to dive into it a little bit more. But it truly is a double-edged sword. You can't make data-driven decisions without the data, but you can't get the data without exposing people to it. And so while there's always going to be a certain age group where it's uncomfortable for some, do we want to expose those students to that and when they're uncomfortable, knowing that we might get and uncover some really good data where other students are really struggling with things? Or, where is the line? And like Lisa said, I can support sixth graders going either way. I do like the data, but unfortunately, we do have to ask the questions, or they have to ask the questions in order to get
I
it.
totally agree with you, but there's that one or two that you have to be worried about. And I think in general, that's something we could definitely use, so.
So this is the survey that we've done the last several odd years. So as it sits right now, the recommendation from administration is to move forward and continue with it 6th through 12th. But it would require a motion and second and board approval.
One more quick question. Have we always done the middle school survey, or is that, you said since 2017, is that all the way set 6th through 12th, or did we add the middle school later, or?
I am mostly confident that we have always given, because I believe when it was in middle school, it was 6th through
Okay.
8th doing the middle school survey, but I don't know if any administration has been here to confirm that. John, would you know off the top of your head? Laura?
Recall the grades
Sean?
at the middle school.
I do know in 2023 that it was offered at the middle school.
Okay. Well, I would make the motion to approve the administration of the youth risk behavior survey as presented.
I'll second it. Discussion? Mrs. Dickman?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Aye.
All right, I'll make the motion, then we move into closed session pursuant to section 19.851E and/or F, and to the Wisconsin statutes 118.125 to consider employment, promotion, compensation of employees, discussing individual employee hiring and administrator evaluations, and to discuss individual student discipline and student open enrollment applications and individual pupil information related to those applications. The board may take action on these issues in closed session if necessary and appropriate. At the conclusion of the closed session, the board will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bailey. Discussion? Aye.
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 Thank you.